The previous basket is under review.
Welcome back to Stats by Will and Jim, the college basketball podcast that focuses on the numbers. I'm your host, Jim Root, joined as always by Will Warren, the esteemed statistical guru of this show. I'm just a host. We are proudly under the Basket Under Review umbrella. Please check out the Discord and the website. That is Basket Under Review. We think it's the best college basketball community on the internet. Incredible writing from Will himself, from Jordan Majeski, from Brian Ralph, from a great stable of both permanent and rotating guest writers. A lot of incredible content in there, more than you'll find anywhere else. And people love college basketball. That's the biggest thing I love about Basket Under Review, is the people here love hoops. They love the sport. So tune in there, get into the Discord, join the discussion, all kinds of great topics in there. You've got Trilly Donovan Scoops. Also got Scout Team by Eric Fawcett and Kevin Sweeney if you want to dive into the film. A little bit of gambling chatter with myself and the other three-man weave heads. So anything you want in the college basketball world, it's there for you. Only $10 a month. That's Basket Under Review. All right, Will, I didn't want to even let you interject. I like introducing you and giving you praise without giving you a chance to rebuke me or to make fun of it. It's just true. You're the stat guru. That's what you are.
Well, thank you. I feel very very proud. I don't know what the word would be. Not like proud, I guess, like joyous of my career, happy where it's at, happy to be part of the Basket Under Review team, of course. I did have to, we'll start off with story time. I figure that's how people love to start all podcasts, is with 10 minutes of bullshit. But I was in Memphis this weekend. This is what I'm wearing. It's a medal from the half marathon, the St. Jude half.
Yes, I see it. For those listening on audio version, I can confirm it was there. Podcast. I can confirm it was there.
Yeah, very visual. But my brothers-in-law had never run one before, so I paced them to it. All good and such. I did have to explain to, I think, a total of 6 people what Basket Under Review was. So we have new followers and subscribers, which is good.
I love it.
Unfortunately, the one new subscriber is a Kentucky basketball fan, so I had to warn him ahead of time. But, I think he'll be okay.
I would think Kentucky basketball fans at this stage know what they're getting into with any Kentucky basketball discussion. And I'll just, for the listeners, if you haven't read it, Will wrote a terrific piece on Kentucky basketball that tried to figure out I believe you referred to it as the trolley problem of their lineups, correct? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the trolley problem, which is a famed internet thing. Did you ever see I hope it's not, I'm sure it is, a TikTok of Daniel? It was like a fake interview question. It sounded legitimate, of Daniel Jones being asked about the trolley problem.
No, I did not. I gotta say, you're way more tuned in on TikTok than I am, Will. I gotta give you that credit.
Well, one of us is married to a TikTok obsessive, okay. So I think that could be the problem. She doesn't do them, thankfully, but she watches them a lot. So okay. I get a lot of like cat ones. Anything with a fart in it is very popular for me. So that, and then I did promise to tell my story of how my Saturday went awry. We were at a bar and it was like very fun, whole family. This is a whole family excursion. So like my in-laws, my brothers-in-law, their wives, the kid, etc. But in Memphis, if you don't know, and I need to whip out my driver's license at some point and show the people, again, very visual podcast. The state of Tennessee in Memphis has the pyramid on the driver's license, which, if you're a fan of history, will recall that Memphis basketball used to play games there, as well as the Grizzlies.
Oh, yeah.
They do not anymore. It is now a Bass Pro Shops, a gigantic Bass Pro Shops that you can stay in if you so choose. They have a hotel there.
It's incredible.
Have you been to it?
I have not been inside, unfortunately. Is that the Bass Pro Shops where that one guy was swimming naked the one time, or is that a different one?
Let's just say yes. Okay. That kind of feels right.
All right, cool.
But this is like in the middle of conference championship Saturday, and not to like shit on them, they're obviously wonderful people, but they're all like, we want to go to the Bass Pro Pyramid. And unfortunately, I'm a veteran of this. I've been like 5 or 6 times now because my parents wanted to go. And then like the first time I went to Memphis, I wanted to go, so on and so forth. And so like by this time, I'm just like, Jesus, get me out of here. But we have to like, look at every little bit of Bass Pro material and whatnot. And I'm following along. I don't even remember what game it was on my phone, but it's like, it's a banger. And I'm like, I could be at the hotel watching this. Instead, I'm watching people, they have a booth there trying to sell vacations for Branson, Missouri.
Oh, baby. Oh, yeah.
Branson.
Home of many wineries.
Home of like a lot. Wasn't there like all I know about Branson, sadly, is that there's like this King of the Hill episode where they go to Branson to see this comedian.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. I know
They
Link
don't
Academy's there
even
for
meet the
college
comedian.
basketball relevance. There's something.
Yeah. But anyway, that's how my Saturday went. And then I got home and watched Tennessee get smoked by Illinois. So it was a great Saturday that turned not so great.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I will tell the listeners, Will tried to ban me from bringing up Tennessee on this episode. And he tried to offer the chip of not bringing up my alma mater, Missouri, getting punked by their arch rival. And I said, nope, I think we've got to lean into this and unfortunately figure out what's going wrong with our teams. But we will get to that. Yeah, unfortunately, the Bass Pro Shop wasn't the adventure you wanted on Saturday. But, Will, we have a wonderful show for the folks. We're going to start with a quick trivia. And then, of course, our 7-man rotation, 7-stat rotation. Still haven't settled on a name for that. But where we go back and forth and come up and discuss with the top 7 numbers that stood out to us over the past week or just as we stand today. But as mentioned first, a little bit of trivia. And I hope I am not stepping on the toes of any of your numbers with this, but it's something that I felt a number-based podcast should discuss in the college basketball world. And we just had the Week 6 AP poll. And that is a hot button topic because I believe it is 21 straight years where the eventual national champion has been in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. So first, I guess I'll ask you this. And in my mind, this poll is somewhat predictive because like you've got the teams that had high enough expectations, so enough talent, plus teams that are playing well enough early to be good enough to win the title. But there are 2 differences between the current top 12 in the AP poll and the no priors filter on Bart Torvik's website. So a top 12 from there where you're taking out preseason expectations, so purely performance, and then the top 12 of the AP poll. Can you name the 2 differences? And I can read you the top 12 of the AP poll just so the people know and you know. We've got number 1, Arizona, then Michigan, Duke, Iowa State, UConn, Purdue, Houston, Gonzaga, Michigan State, BYU, Louisville, and Alabama. That is your top 12 in the AP poll. And there are 2 differences relative to no priors of Bart Torvik. Can you name them?
Okay, I'm going to wager that one of the no priors teams that are in there is Vanderbilt. That's for sure.
Bingo. They are 5th in the no priors.
Yeah, that I'm a little surprised they're not in there.
Yep. Only 15th in the AP poll, despite being undefeated.
Okay, let me think of
so you got one more team that sneaks in and 2 that are in that top 12 that are not actually top 12 per no priors.
This is going to be a really obvious one. I feel like I can't think of it. Is it Louisville?
Louisville is in the top 12 already.
Shit, I missed that. Okay.
It's tricky. This one, I more wanted it to be a discussion. I'm not going to like test your knowledge, but the difference is that Illinois, who is 13th in the AP poll, is actually 12th in the no priors. Yes. I'm more intrigued. Can you name the 2 that are in the top 12 AP poll that are not in the no priors top 12? And one of them, I want you to think recent performance, and the other one is just generally difficult. So we'll see if you get one of them.
Recent performance is going to mean that they lost a game or 2.
And may or may not have lost by a lot of points.
Okay, is Purdue one?
Purdue is 13th. So I know they are in the top 12 of the AP poll, but because of getting just absolutely blasted at home by Iowa State, they are barely outside of the top 12 at that no priors. And then one more of that AP top 12 is actually not up there.
Is it Louisville?
It is not Louisville. It is BYU.
Okay.
BYU
that makes sense.
Yeah,
okay.
17th. Yeah. I think the home performance against Delaware wasn't great. I know they blew out Wisconsin. They played UConn close, but
they had one other wobbly game too.
Yeah,
was it? They didn't play well against Dayton. I'm remembering.
Yes, yeah. Dayton made a lot of shots late in that game. I watched that whole thing. It was a really fun game. But yeah, so the Dayton one, and yeah, Delaware was close-ish. Villanova, they didn't blow out. Miami kept it close. So yes, BYU barely not in there. So I'm curious, Will, on your thoughts on this. That's why I wanted to discuss it. Do you think this is statistically significant? The fact that 21 straight teams have come from this 21 straight champions have come from the top 12. Is week 6 a logical barometer to you because of the amount of time we've gotten to see teams, plus the blend of preseason expectations? What do you think of this trend and how much does it matter to you?
I think it's more fun than it is like a super signifier because so once we get to like March, I do often see this pop up in your usual list of like, oh, you have to be top 25 in offense and defense at Ken Palm. And it's like, okay, but like eventually it is going to break.
Yes.
And so I think my thought is that it's useful in the sense of in the same way that the stat about 24 of the last 25 champions have had 0 or 1 losses in non-conference play is. It tells you who's like already like it's a combination of like we knew they were good in preseason and they're playing well now. It doesn't really, and I do like the fact that it doesn't really give room for late risers in conference play, which often become really overrated as you get to the NCAA tournament. I think a lot of, and I know this is an extreme case because they were a 7 seed and whatnot, but Texas A&M a couple of years ago when they had their super hot run through SEC play, I think they blew out Alabama on the season's final day, and then they were like everybody's sexy like Elite 8 pick as a 7 seed, and then proceeded to get stomped in the first round. So I kind of like that it covers up for that, but also gives credence to, I believe from the same season, UConn, who had that amazing non-conference run and then really scuffed it up for about a month in Big East play before finding it again. I would not deem it to be like the end all be all, but I do think it's useful enough in the same way that like the 0-1 losses stat is, or like, you know, how I think it's 9 of 11 or 10 of the last 12 champions have won a preseason tournament, stuff like that. Like those, they're useful enough, but they're just kind of like, I would say that they're like bullet points to me.
Right. Yeah. So, like, generally, if you're Illinois and you're 13th in the AP poll, I wouldn't think you feel like you can't win the title, or even like
Yeah.
Vanderbilt or like undefeated Vandy, Florida, the reigning national champion, 3 losses down at 18th in the AP poll. It's not doomed, but yes, there is that indicator of like you're playing well early, and we thought you'd be good. I think that's the nice blend of where week 6 ends up being that. The interesting thing is that it's not, like the was it the Shabazz Napier team that is the one that breaks all the Ken Palm comparisons because they weren't good
Mm-hmm.
going into the tournament. They actually do satisfy this one, I believe, because they were in the poll early in the season before struggling and going like 500 in Big East play. But okay, that's enough intro before we get into the show here. A quick shout out to Home Field Apparel, our sponsor, the premier provider of college sports apparel. From Air Force to Youngstown State, they cover schools from all over the alphabet and the country. That goes for every level, too. Shout out to the Banana Slugs of UC Santa Cruz. Of course, you got Colorado School of Mines, Slippery Rock, etc. Really fun teams, fun logos. And they continue to expand their product lines with their jackets, their jerseys, to go with t-shirts, hoodies, hats, joggers, etc. Everything you want to wear, everything that's comfy, Home Field provides it with great logos to boot. So please go to homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code BURNER15 for 15% off your first purchase. That tells them that the Burner sent you. It's good for us. It's good for them. It's good for everybody. You save money. So check out homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team and get some Christmas shopping done. Get it done early because, hey, there's going to be a lot of people ordering from Home Field. So if you want it early, go do it now. Go do it now. Go order. homefieldapparel.com.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's start with our little 7-stat rotation. We'll go back and forth on some numbers that jumped out to us from this past week. And we've always got this trickiness where we try to balance, make sure we cover the same amount of teams and not overlap on stats. We don't introduce what we're going to talk about to each other until the show. It's a live reveal for us and the listeners. So where did you start? I'm curious what team really led your way here.
I had to start with the one game that I got to watch the most of on Saturday. Sunday was a lost day because we were traveling, but Saturday morning or afternoon, whatever. God, Central Time is amazing. I did get to watch most of this. And the stats here are, and you'll probably figure it out, but 39.9% and 40%.
Boy, no, I don't know.
Through 10 games, these are Duke's opponent 2-point percentages and opponent effective field goal percentages allowed. The former, lowest since 2017-18 Michigan State. The latter, lowest since 38-1 Kentucky. Now, obviously, I don't think these are going to hold the whole year. There's some schedule stuff involved in this. Like Duke's probably not going to play. I think they've played 5 Q4 so far. I know the ACC is the ACC, and like Boston College could have with us, but they may not play 5 Q4s the rest of the way combined, even like with a 16 seed. So there's some amount of that in it, but they just got done holding MSU to 13 of 44 from two, which is their third worst effort of the last 20 years. They have been dominant defensively against pretty much everybody. I don't know if people know this, the only team that's gone above 50% against them from two is Kansas, of all teams.
Yeah, wow.
And that was without Darren Peterson.
Yeah.
So, and I think full credit to Bill Self for that. That's just a great coaching job. There's not much more that to be done about that. But I'm really excited and intrigued by this team, which is not like a comfortable position to be in with Duke. They do all this and have the 8th lowest opponent free throw rate allowed. So they defend the rim really well, force a lot of really tough shots, block a lot of shots, and don't foul. How do you solve this? Like unless you have elite talent. And I guess my question is, I've seen a lot of people, like there's this debate about, like obviously best team we have the debate about. We also have the debate about like best offense, best defense. I would say the average person is on the side of Michigan or Iowa State as your best defense. And obviously Houston is always lurking in the background for this. Is it actually Duke that's your number one defense?
Yeah, it might be. I mean, they're just huge. They're athletic. Like a lot of this is with Dame Sarr even sort of drifting a little bit down the rotational pecking order. And at opening night, he was like a glove against Texas. You're like, oh my God, that guy's going to be the best defender in the country. And he hasn't started the last 2 games. He barely played half the game against Michigan State, played less than against Florida. I don't look at this, and outside of, Malik Brown for sure, and what I guess Cam Boozer is starting to bring, like, they're not mega elite defenders here. They're doing it with Isaiah Evans on the floor, who I thought was going to be a bad defender, but he's top 200 nationally in block rate, which I think is definitely some schedule-based stuff. But the fact that they're huge, like Caleb Foster is your point guard at 6'5", your wings are big, versatile, long. They're really switchable. Maybe you go at them on the offensive glass where they're, oh, boo-hoo, only 95th in defensive rebound rate. And Michigan State certainly tried to do that. That is the Michigan State offensive model. But they only got 28% of their misses. Michigan State did on the year. They're still above 40% as a team. So that tells you that Duke held up on the glass against arguably the best offensive rebounding team in the country, or one of the best. So I don't really know how you solve it either. You've got to hit shots on them, extend their defense a little bit. They are giving up a lot of threes, but I think it's because they switch and they keep you on the perimeter, and it's just hard to get into the paint against them. The next team that scores efficiently for a full 40 minutes against them will be the first. Like even you mentioned Kansas going above or shooting okay from 2-point range, and they managed 1.0 points per possession and couldn't score down the stretch. So no one scores late against Duke. I've been massively impressed with the defense, and it might be the best one. Like they don't have Ade Mata at the back line, but they've got everything else.
Yeah, and with them, like there's still going to be the chance that they have a bad game incoming. Like they still play Texas Tech on the 20th, which I know Texas Tech has been really up and down, but look, for better or for worse, I was really impressed by what they did against LSU. I do think Ken Pom top 25 LSU is going to age about as gracefully as AP top 20 Pitt did last year. But that being said, LSU is still not awful. And, they rip them to shreds. Texas Tech still has that capability. They've still got to play Louisville twice. I do think that one of those 2 games, Texas Tech or Louisville, I could see them look vulnerable. But I don't. I look at them and, last year we already knew like they were really good on defense. They had the offensive upside, though. I don't know that they have the same offensive upside this year, like the explosiveness that they did last year, where they could snap their fingers and escape velocity was achieved almost instantly. I don't know that they can do that this year, but they can sit on an opponent in a way that I don't think they could last season.
Yeah, just lean on them with size, physicality, depth. Yeah, they don't have like the Knipple game breaker, like shooter plus playmaker. They've got shooting. They've got a couple of playmakers, but like when Caden Boozer's out there, you can help off him. When Foster's out there, he's not always the most efficient decision maker. Isaiah Evans isn't really going to put the ball on the floor against you. Kaminia kind of the same way. but they've got guys that can do everything. I'm looking at, I said, I think to beat them and score efficiently, you've got to make shots. And they've given up 10 threes twice this year. One was to Arkansas, who couldn't score it on the stretch again. And one was to Army, who went 12 of 49 from three. It was just like, we can't get near the basket, so we're just going to fire away. They haven't had the opponent has a big 3-point shooting game yet. Michigan State was probably the best, going 8 of 22. But we'll see how that goes into ACC play. I'm glad you mentioned Louisville, because I am very curious to see how that offense fares against this Duke defense, because they can spread you out and maybe get into space, get into gaps. We'll see if it works, though, because Duke is so long, so athletic.
And here's the stat for you, actually, because you mentioned this. Duke under Shire, 59-4 when they hold opponents to 30% or worse from three.
Yeah, it's obvious, like a lot of teams are going to be good in that, but yeah, 59-4, doing it 63 times is pretty impressive too.
Yeah.
All right, one of the other teams you mentioned, Will, as possibly the top defense in the country was Iowa State, and my numbers for them is just number 2, because that's where they are in defensive efficiency, but it's also where they are in offensive effective field goal percentage. And I think that's the number that should blow people away a little bit with Iowa State. Not expected to be this good offensively, especially with Taman Lipsey missing a couple of games. Theoretically, their table setter creates easy offense with steals. But man, they're just a juggernaut when they're shooting like this. Momcilovic is well over 50% from deep. He's taking tough shots. He's taking step backs. He's taking threes that are nowhere near towing the line. You've got the emergence from Killian Toure, who looks like a possible one and done, or at least definitely a pro down the line. Jamarian Bateman's hitting threes. Blake Buchanan has fit in as like the perfect role-playing big man in TJ Otzelberger's system. It's just kind of staggering how good this team has been with Josh Jefferson leading the way. And I think the fact that they've been this good offensively, maybe there's some regression coming, and shot quality's numbers certainly indicate that two-way shot regression. But they're a legit top 10 team that just put up maybe the best performance of the season at Mackey Arena.
I'm going to pull off like a double seek here, because this was one of mine, Iowa State shooting numbers. But number 1, can I read off for you the offensive ratings of the top 7 players in minutes?
Yes, please.
They're insane.
It's eye-opening. Yeah.
135, 146, that's Momcilovic. 124, 123, 133, 143, 141. That is the top 7 players, all basically playing like Chris Paul, Wake Forest, or far better.
It's insane. And
like, I mean, like, I know it's 9 games. I know it's, not been outside. They have played 4 pretty good teams. I think 4 teams that will be at least in the tournament mix. I am counting Creighton in this, by the way. I know people are down on them right now, but like, this is not a great Big East, and somebody has to win games.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Sorry. And Syracuse, look, it is going to benefit me massively for my narratives if Syracuse does well. So, KJ, I'm all on your side, buddy. It's going to help me. It's going to help my mental health out a lot if Syracuse wins 24 games. So I hope they do. But that being said, the numbers that you see from Iowa State, even in these quadrant 4 games, are ones that we just have not seen with them before. We've known like Iowa State to beat the pants off of overmatched opponents just with their defensive system. But like, the 4 Q4s they've played so far, 88, 102, 96, poor Alcorn State, man, 132. Those are numbers that Iowa State didn't put up 2 years ago. They put them up a bit last year, but they didn't blow them out quite as effectively. The defense wasn't there all the way. This year, it kind of feels like both are firing on all cylinders. And, they're doing all this with a defense that's currently number 1 in forcing turnovers, 27% of opponent possessions. Even against a Purdue team that's usually really safe with the ball, forced them on 23%. That's a hell of a stat. And I do want to see into my number here, which was 44 and 53%, which is their numbers from 3 and mid-range. For context, if you can recall bubble NBA, that's what Seth Curry shot from those for the entire season for the Mavericks. And it felt like Seth Curry was never going to miss a shot that bubble.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to hold. I think, like, if you want a glaring regression game, keep an eye on them playing Iowa this week at home on a Thursday. That's one that interests me. But even so, this is a team that if they win that game, they're going to be extremely strong favorites to start out 14-0 And by that point, probably top 2, top 3 in the poll.
Yes, very much so. And looking at the numbers you mentioned there, their 3-point and mid-range shooting, shot quality is not Bible, but it does try to measure some of the stuff like expected regression there. They're expected to be shooting 5% worse from 3-point range and almost 9% worse from mid-range. So I think that's going to come up and bite them a little bit. If you combine offensive and defensive expected regression from 3-point range, they're like bottom 30 in the country in what's coming to get them, what's lurking. So there is a little two-way regression in their numbers, but that doesn't completely change the fact that they're top 5 on both ends of the floor per KenPom right now. They're undefeated. They have multiple very key wins, and they've just been awesome in the non-conference. It's like for years under Otzelberger, teams aren't ready for the pressure that they provide and the really just insane style that they bring to things. So I think Iowa State is a national title contender. My question quick for you, Will, are they the Big 12 favorite to you in your mind, ahead of Arizona, ahead of Kansas, ahead of Houston, et cetera, in that league, BYU even?
I'm not there yet. I think that they're a co-favorite with Houston and Arizona, and I'm really excited to watch those three battle it out. I would separate the tiers out as such. So you have tier 1, Houston, Iowa State, Arizona, all roughly equal. Tier 2, and this is going to bite me in the ass, I'm sure, but I am still putting Texas Tech in tier 2 alongside BYU and Kansas. I think BYU and Kansas are ahead. I just can't give up on the potential of TTU. And I think there's like that LSU game. I know. They shot almost 50% from 3. LSU certainly did not. Doesn't matter to me. They have shown it before, and I think they're going to show it again. I'm still a believer there. So I think those are your top 6, and then kind of frankly, a major mess from there, from like probably 6 through 15.
Yeah.
But still, I like this. I love this Iowa State team. And the thing that I will even push back on my own numbers with, I ran this in preparation for this, also because Jordan Majewski asked me to. In John Gassaway's classic shot volume index, which measures just like your more or less the number of field goal attempts you get more per 100 than your opponent, Iowa State number 1 in the nation. In Haslametrics, I call it the easy hack, which is just like field goal attempts plus free throw attempts per 100 more than your average opponent. Iowa State top 8 in the country. So even on bad shooting nights, they're going to have that out.
Yep. That's it. It helps. Even against good teams, they're able to do it, and they've shown the ability to do it against really good teams on the road at Mackey. The largest loss ever, or home non-conference loss for a number 1 team, I believe that was.
I think largest non-conference, tied for largest ever by AP number 1 at home.
Okay. Yeah. Just wild numbers out of that game. They started 14 of 16 from the field in the second half, 5 of 5 from 3. Just a torrential downpour, and Purdue could do nothing about it.
Jesus, sounds like Isaac Trotter in the media game.
Hey, now, yeah, he was lighting it up. It was scary. I'm just going to quick sneak in my support of your maintaining Resolute on Texas Tech Island. I'll remind people that last year on New Year's Day, they were 9-3 with their best wins being either Syracuse or DePaul, 2 teams that did not finish in the top 100. And they also had losses to St. Joe's and a home loss to UCF. And then suddenly they ended up a 3 seed in the Elite 8. Just give Grant McCaslin a little bit of time. We'll see. I'm gonna hold my judgment for them. All right, back to you, Will. I think we did cover your second number for you, but I do want to.
Yeah,
we'll go to. You can do number 3.
Okay, so then you got to do 2 in a row then.
Okay, I can do that.
All right, my number 3. Let's just keep it on this game. 0.889. That is Purdue's points per possession against Iowa State. That is their worst since the 76-58 loss to Marquette last year. 3rd worst of the last 4 seasons, including the Edey era. This is kind of strange to say. Them giving up 81 to Iowa State doesn't really move me. They've done that before. They the defense is capable of some bad nights, and Iowa State certainly shot the lights out. There's some unsustainability there. It just doesn't. I don't know. What I'm getting at is it doesn't fundamentally change the calculus for me defensively for them. Like, Purdue has bad nights. That's not really new. Purdue having this bad of an offensive night is new. The 3-point shooting is one thing, but 6 of 14 at the line is shocking to me from a team that really should just, I know it's a small sample, but should know better. Like, that shouldn't happen. And this is a strange one because offensively, outside of this and the Oakland game, they have looked the part so far of a great offense. I thought they shredded Alabama quite well. We're obviously very good against Texas Tech. Playing Rutgers is kind of like playing air, but even so, that is Big Ten talent of a sort. This was alarming to me because I don't like seeing that they shot under 50%, especially after barely topping 50% against Rutgers. I'm not pulling any alarms yet. No 5-alarm fires, none of that. But they're still really low in free throw rate, which I don't like and I thought would be better. And honestly, they're a little too reliant on offensive rebounds. Is that strange to say?
Yeah, it's surprising. I'm glad you brought up the free throw rate. That's what I was going to just zero in on. They're 7th nationally in minutes continuity. So like they clearly brought back a lot. That was the big sell with them this year. And yet they've dropped 200 spots in free throw rate rankings from 130th to 325th right now. They're just not getting as many easy baskets. They're still ranked number 1 in offense at Ken Palm. I'm sure Boiler fans are like, how are they zeroing in on offense? How dare they? They're top 15 in 3-point percentage, top 10 in offensive rebound. But against tougher, like the absolute apex of defenses, you want to be able to get easier baskets. And they weren't able to do that against Iowa State. That big run where Iowa State couldn't miss, Purdue also only scored 3 points in like 9 minutes in the second half. And that's not what we're accustomed to seeing from this offense. And they've got to find a way to get to the line a little bit more. Kaufman-Wren's free throw rate is way down. And that's obviously they lack like wing slashing athletes. That was, I think, to me, more of a concern defensively. But now thinking about it, like, all right, maybe I should have had a little bit of alarm offensively because they're not going to get driving layups and they're not going to get to the line and not going to get fouled. That's been a little bit of an issue for them. And I think if it's going to be offense is the shining light beacon that carries the way, finding a few more easy buckets and easy points is going to be really crucial.
I do want to also note that people are really hating on Oscar Clough still for reasons I can't figure out. Lineups with him are like 16 points per 100 better than any other front court combo they have right now. He's been extraordinarily efficient, and it is largely because he just shoots layups and dunks. But I mean, he and TKR together are producing some astonishing rebound numbers. So, like, yeah, there are some spacing concerns here and there, and they do still shoot a little too many jumpers for my liking, but they hit them. And when it's a TKR and Clough lineup out there, they are plus 24 on the boards per 100. Like, that's like, Clough is not the problem.
No. Yeah. I mean, both those guys are top 6 nationally in offensive rebound rate. You have 2 of the top 6 on the same team when there are 365 teams. That's kind of ludicrous.
Yeah.
Offense is going to be really good still. Just I'd like to see them maybe get to the line a little more and show it against the elite defenses. All right. Next up, this is maybe close to a first repeat number on the show, but I'm going with 363rd, and that is Arizona's 3-point attempt rate. And we talked about them only taking 5 against Florida in the season opener. And we're like, all right, maybe that was just like a goal for that game. Let's get downhill and test this incredible front court, try to get them in foul trouble. It just doesn't matter. Arizona is just so big, so athletic. It doesn't, when they play top competition like Auburn, like they just did, they don't need to take threes. They're so huge and physically dominant. They just get downhill on you. They get to the line. They rebound the ball offensively. And they're the most made threes on their team is 12 through 8 games. They got 2 guys that have made 12 threes. They have no volume shooters, but it doesn't matter because they get easy looks inside. They get out in transition. Pete is such a great one-on-one scorer in the mid post. I just think it's crazy impressive that in the year 2025-26, this top 10 offense doesn't even think about shooting threes. They have the 10th lowest percent scored from beyond the arc, percent of points scored from beyond the arc of anybody in the country. They just don't need to, which I think is kind of staggering.
What's that meme? Diner. It's like this diner still makes their Coke the old-fashioned way.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know this one.
Where it's like the syrup and then the soda water or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's Arizona basketball. I also, Isaac Trotter actually texted me at 2:30 yesterday, and I'm going to read this verbatim. At some point, one of us is going to have to write an in-depth story on the team in Tucson who is trying to win the national championship while telling the 3-point stripe to GFY respectfully. So very good timing. What they remind me more of, and it's kind of a little fraught to do these cross-sport comparisons sometimes is like upper tier SEC teams in women's basketball right now. South Carolina, LSU, and Texas on the women's side all don't shoot threes. Like right now, they are all 357th or worse in 3-point attempt rate.
Wow.
But they all have top 5 offenses because they're so dominant in the front court, and like all of them get back insane numbers of rebounds. Arizona is kind of built like that. We don't really see it that way in men's hoops anymore, but 9th in OREB, top 50 actually in both 3-point and 2-point percentage, even though they don't attempt many threes. They are very front court slanted, and I'm waiting for the team that's just going to build a wall and try and force them to shoot, but I can't quite pinpoint who that is. And I guess if it was going to be anybody, it would have been UConn, because Alabama is certainly not built that way. I don't think San Diego State quite has the athletes to pull that off, though they have the system. And looking through their schedule, I don't know if people are aware of this. Their run-up in Big 12 play is very light. So I'm going to read it off for you really quick. Utah, Kansas State, TCU, Arizona State, UCF, Cincy, West Virginia are their first 7.
Yeah.
Which of those defenses is stopping them?
I can't name one. Certain. I mean, maybe Cincinnati. They've got like the size and the athletes, but I wouldn't get too excited about it. Yeah, Arizona's Big 12 schedule is crazy backloaded. Their February is nuts, but they might be undefeated at that point. It's the comparison, and it's not the same because of they get a lot more at the rim than this team I'm going to reference. But last year, people lost their minds about St. John's inability to shoot threes, and it bit them a little bit in the NCAA tournament. I think if you can get this Arizona team to play a little bit more half-court base and shoot jumpers, you got a chance, but that is so much easier said than done with the way they dominate the glass, with Jaden Bradley, a hyper-veteran point guard who gets them up and down. Their bigs are mobile. They're deep. It's just like, okay, yeah, just slow them down. But it doesn't really happen that way once you get them on the floor. So I don't think it's going to be as big of an Achilles heel as it was for St. John's last year, but it's at least something to monitor. At this point, it hasn't mattered, though. They're justifiably, I think, number 1 now in the AP poll.
Yeah, and it's like they have plus shot makers for when the time comes. Like Jaden Bradley is a great, tough shot maker. I have really how do you say his name? Aristode,
I think.
Aristode. Okay. I keep getting shit from people for mispronouncing names, and that really should be somebody else's domain.
Yeah, I'm not positive on that. So if you get shit for that one, I'll hand up.
I'd like a live translator to work for us. But Del Orso also like a pretty good shot maker, not like a tough one, but a good one. Mm-hmm. So I think when the time comes, they could make these shots. It's just that right now they haven't had to. And I'm curious to see how long that lasts. But when you're as two-way dominant on the interior as they are, it's kind of like Michigan in a way, where the threes are almost a bonus. Like it's nice if you make them, but in the average game, you may not have to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they took 15 against Auburn, mentioned 5 against Florida. Just if they're taking 52 twos and a lot of them are at the rim, your offense is going to be good no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back to back here, Will, and I'm going to mid-major world. I'm just completely zagging away from Arizona. My number is plus 18.4, and that is the 2-point percentage margin for Belmont right now, who has shockingly become the highest rated Missouri Valley team by a decent margin in KenPom. They are 74th. The second best team is 100th, Northern Iowa. Now it's tough to learn about them. It's tough to know about them, and it's going to continue to be because their best opponents on the entire schedule are Northern Iowa, who's now 100th, and they just lost at home to 101st Richmond. But Will, they went to the Glass House and they shot 44% from 3. And you know as well as anyone that nobody does that at Middle Tennessee. It is so hard to shoot there. I have a little bit of concern with their defense. I think there's some regression coming there with the amount of threes they give up and the fact that teams are shooting under 30%. But it's a Casey Alexander offense. They have a lot of skill and size in the front court. And I kind of think they have at least earned co-favorite reputation or hype in the Missouri Valley because Murray State hasn't quite been what was hoped. Northern Iowa, not quite there. Illinois State has been nowhere near what people wanted them to be. And meanwhile, Belmont's just kind of chugging along.
And they get an extremely high shot quality on offense. Looking at Synergy right now, They grade just 7% of their shots as 20th percentile shot attempts or worse, which is, I think, third best in the nation. They are extremely good at, getting open catch and shoots, getting to the rim. But like you said, I think the biggest surprise for me is not that Belmont gets good shots. I feel like I've known that for 20 years. It's the defense. And I don't think they're going to allow 29% from three forever. They do give up over half of the shot attempts they allow from three, which is interesting. That's very high variance.
Yep.
But I think the reason they're winning 2-point percentage so well right now, and again, opponent dependent here, but only 29% of all shots allowed are from the rim. That's really good. They're packing it in very, very well. They don't even allow many short mid-range jumpers. Just 9% of all jumpers allowed are from 16 feet or less. So they're okay with giving up threes. I mean, they give up more jumpers than all but two teams in America. Unsurprisingly, South Alabama is number one in that stat.
Yes, the zone. Yes.
Yeah, by a mile. But the good thing for them, 64% of their catch and shoots allowed are guarded. That's a pretty good rate. That's well above the national average. Their expected allowed hit rate from three is right at about 33, 34%. So it's not crazy to me that even with some of that 3-point regression incoming, they continue to allow a pretty low rate of 2-point percentage hits. So they do block a decent amount of shots too, which is unusual for Belmont.
Yes.
I'm not going to try and pronounce it. I'm guessing it's Drew Sharnowski and Brigham Rogers, those two in the front court.
Yeah.
Very good rim protectors for Belmont. And as usual, the offense is going to continue to show up. They're just good.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. They're just good. And I've been waiting patiently for a Casey Alexander team to break out like this in the MVC, and it kind of feels like this might be the year.
Yeah, which was surprising considering some of the continuity at Northern Iowa and Illinois State and the talent brought in at Murray State. But just to add on to what you're saying, per CBB Analytics, they're shooting 80.3% at the rim this year. That is 100th percentile in the country. The shot chart is just dark red, really cool to see. And then defensively, to your point, only 16% allowed frequency at the rim, the 100th percentile in frequency allowed. So they make everything at the rim and they don't let you get to the rim. And that's kind of been a hack for Florida and Arizona and Gonzaga is two-way rim dominance. Michigan is dialing into that hack this year, and Belmont almost has it at the mid-major level. Mm-hmm. All right, those are my two there, Will. So we're on number 4 for both of us. We'll go back to you.
This is one where I don't really have a stat. It's just a team name, and it is Kentucky. And I think we need to talk about them.
Yes, we do.
Because hard to pick your stat here, to be honest. I mean, you could go with all priors removed, 59th in offensive efficiency. You could go that they're 281st in forcing turnovers, 289th in offensive free throw rate, which is surprising. I think the big one for a lot of people is 32% from three, which fine. That's one way to look at it. I think the reason, because I keep seeing people being like, how are they still ranked so high in KenPom or Torvik or whatever? And it's because they're pantsing their Q4s the way they always have under, especially Mark Pope. His entire career has been beating the crap out of Q4s. Their top 100 performances outside of the Louisville game, which I think is aging okay, have been horrific. These are unadjusted, but 93 points per 100 against MSU, 100 per 100 against UNC, 84 per 100 against Gonzaga. And these have all been with really low turnover rates. For a team that can't shoot, they take care of the ball really damn well. They don't turn it over much at all. And against 3 of those 4, they have gotten to the line with fair frequency. But I wrote the article, The Kentucky Trolley Problem, about this. People have been saying, and our Charlie Donovan has too, which I respect, to wait until they're fully healthy. My counterpoint, what about full health fixes the fact they can't shoot?
Yeah.
What about full health fixes the fact that they don't have a plus shooter at the 4 like they did last year with Almanor and Carr? There are just pure structural problems on this team that are not going to be fixed no matter how healthy or unhealthy they are. And I am aware that when Jaden Quaintance comes back, which is a little when people are like, oh, the apocalypse is happening on February 20th. Well, show me. I'm kind of waiting for Jaden Quaintance to actually be on a court before I'm convinced he's playing this season, which is a little rude, I'm sure. But like his dad was like, "Oh, he's playing on November 4th." Well, buddy, it's December 9th, and I haven't seen him in a Kentucky uniform
Yeah,
yet.
and I think heavy speculation he won't be there till January at minimum.
Yeah, and at this point, like, are we sure he's going to play in January? So, and like when he comes back and when Mo Diabate is at full health, is the front court going to be really good defensively? I do think so. I think like the upside as a defensive front court does look pretty good. Is the offense going to fit Mark Pope's system at all? I don't think it will at any point this year. And are they going to continually shoot 24% against top 100 opponents from three? I don't think so. I do think that like there's some regression out there. They'll get a little better. But by the same token, I offered you and our listeners 10 and a half total losses over under, I think 2 weeks ago. And I think the over is going to cash like possibly before March.
Yeah, it's looking I think I said 9 losses, and I'm feeling embarrassed right now because that seems like almost no chance of happening. I believe they lost to North Carolina the night we recorded that, and that one really hurt my argument. A home loss to a team that they are arguably or should have been better than. Man, it's tough because you still got Indiana and St. John's, and then you have the SEC schedule. So it looks bleak for them. And the other thing with trying to get healthy, it's not just Quaintance. Like, yes, Jalen Lowe played, and credit to him for being a trooper with his shoulder basically in like a iron lung equivalent of a shoulder, the harness thing. But he is nowhere near himself. He's not going to be able to be like this awesome creator for them. They have no other point guard. They paid $1 million to Cam Williams to be their like shooter from the mid-major ranks. Like, can you come beat Kobe Brea? And he's 6 of 28, 21% from three. Their international import Yelovich is 4 of 23 from deep. Teams are leaving him wide open. Gonzaga just said, good luck, and let him brick away. Yeah, they've got a couple of shooters. Colin Chandler's shown really well there. I think Trent Noah can shoot, but Jasper Johnson can shoot. But they're not really able to produce great shots for those guys because A, they don't have a point guard, and B, they don't have a center that can pass like Amari Williams could last year. And they're not able to run the offense that way anymore.
I think the closest shot they have at that is Marino. I think Marino can run it a little bit. He's not great at it, but like he's not a bad passer with the ball in his hands, and he has a pretty low turnover rate. I think that could be workable. But the problem for me is still, it just really boils down to 1 point guard and 2, the problem at the 4. So let's say that eventually Cam Williams does find a shot, him or Yelovich. Neither of them are like very good defenders. So your best defensive and offensive front courts don't exist together. Like they can't play.
Yep.
And then you get to, well, okay, what if Cam Williams or Yelovich don't find their shots? Are you going to play Trent Noah at the 4? You going to play Owe at the 4? Because if you do, get ready to learn a zone.
Yeah.
And like pray that a 1-3-1 saves your season.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, they'll probably have to play Diabate a ton at the 4. And the fool's gold of him shooting 46% from 3 last year on only 26 attempts. I don't know if that like teased Mark Pope into thinking he'd be a shooter this year, but he's only 1 of 11. He was also 1 of 11 as a freshman at Alabama. I love the guy as a player. He's not a shooting solve, and they're going to have to give him minutes. So it's just it kind of been said over and over, but the roster build does not fit what normally is good about a Mark Pope team. They're also, you didn't have a stat with them. They're like 340th in Manalytics right now. Like you watch their body language and it's just like so bad.
We need Bill Simmons on them. We need the body language talk.
Badly. I think one of the Kentucky Sports Radio guys had a couple of videos of like lazy defense, like looking at the ball, not tracking a backdoor cut or not chasing loose balls against Gonzaga. That game, they like fully quit, never made a single push. And I think that was almost more alarming than the shooting to me, is that the attitude just seems.
You're telling me KSR is reading too much into something?
No, I think they nailed this one. They got to figure out the attitude stuff there. Hey, they'll probably blow out North Carolina Central the night we're recording this. They'll win by 40 as they do to Q4s.
Oh, of course.
And but then we'll see what happens over the weekend against Indiana. That's that.
John Fendler hates when it's said like this, but this is a literal must-win game for Kentucky.
Yeah.
You can't lose it.
Don't be 6-5. Don't be 6-6 after St. John's. 6-6 on Christmas would be scary hours for Kentucky. All right. I believe we're on my number 4 stat. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
For me, number 4. And my stat here is 12th. That is the national ranking of Virginia's 2-point percentage defense, which I think is eye-opening for me because we looked at this roster and we knew it was overflowing with skill, with shooting. They grabbed a bunch of snipers from the mid-major level on the wing. They brought in skilled international players for the front court. But if they're going to be this difficult to get easy baskets against inside, then I think the ceiling really raises with Virginia. And they're coming off a week where they beat Dayton in Charlotte by 13. They won at Texas by 19. That has been super impressive. Outside of Seton Hall, they've probably got the best shot blocking duo at center in the entire country with Grunlow and Onyenso. Both are top 15 nationally in block rate. They're also third in offensive rebound rate, which is not something I expected from a highly skill-based roster. There's just a little more physicality and grit and toughness to this team than I fully anticipated coming in. And they've gotten up into the top 25 of Ken Palm's rankings, and I think they can continue climbing because there's skill, there's shooting, there's depth, and now there's a little more toughness too.
So 2 stats really ring out for them to me. And again, we're going to have to see how these age during the season. But a big one right now, so their expected hit rate allowed at the rim percentage is 56%. They're holding opponents to 50%. A 6% difference is pretty major. But the other for me that I really like to see in that we've seen a little bit in the past from Odom at VCU and other stops, but not as extreme as here. 99th percentile in forcing pull-up jumpers. First percentile in allowing catch and shoots. They run people off the line very well. I think they're only allowing, I think it's less than 20 3-point attempts per game, which is pretty interesting. And the hit rate there is about right, but they are 93rd percentile in forcing mid-range jumpers. And as I mentioned, 99th in forcing dribble jumpers, which at the average hit rate of those is about 5 to 6% worse than a catch and shoot. They're very analytically sound in that way, and they clearly trust their backline enough to run the risk of like those guys just getting to the rim. But they also trust the system enough to just funnel that to about 12 to 15 feet. And I love that because if you give up that shot and they make it, your initial reaction is that's fine. Because that shot, generally speaking, probably going to go in at like what, about a 35 to 40% rate? You know, that expected value of 0.7 to 0.8 points per shot, you're making that bet every time versus a 3 that's about 1 point per shot or an attempt at the rim, which is currently 1 point per shot. Odom has always been a very analytically sound coach, and this seems like a more than some of its parts defense because of that.
Yeah. They've got like all right, if you want to get inside the 3-point arc, do you really want to go to the rim and challenge Grunlow and Onyenso? And that's definitely encouraged that mid-range attempt rate to stay high where teams have got to try the floater or just pull up off the bounce. And yeah, they're willing to say good luck with that. And most of the time, teams are really struggling with it. And the ACC isn't going to completely like scare them. You know, at Louisville's good. North Carolina has been, I think, even better than I expected. Duke is Duke, but Virginia has absolutely a chance to be top 2 or 3 in this league if things break right. They only play Duke once. That certainly helps. I believe they only play Louisville once, and they only play North Carolina once. So that's a pretty friendly schedule for a team in this conference.
Mm-hmm. I think if people want a good, and I'm sure there's like a YouTube super cut of it, a good like primer for this is to watch their game against Texas. They were outstanding at running Texas off the line in that game and forcing them into uncomfortable jumpers. 16, Jim, of their 26 field goal attempt or 26 jumper attempts were off the dribble. They only allowed 10 catch and shoots in that entire game.
That's really good. And Traymon Mark and Jordan Pope and Dalen Swain were more than happy to go off the bounce in that one.
Traymon Mark loves a dribble jumper.
He really does. He only took 8 shots in that game. I won't drag him too much, but 8 shots, 24 minutes, and I'm sure almost all of them were dribble jumpers. Okay, that's Virginia. I think the ceiling's a little higher because of defense. But back to you, Will, number 5.
I think for number 5, this could be the section where we both touch on each person's alma maters.
Let's do it.
So, okay. Number 5, this is minus 0.14. This is Missouri's wins above bubble, despite being 8-2. This is because prior to Notre Dame and Kansas last week, they had played a bottom 8 schedule in America so far.
I believe it was bottom 2, actually.
Might have been bottom 2. I think Miami, Ohio has everybody beat in this regard,
Yes.
but Missouri was trying to get close. Yep. Now, I will qualify, not quantify, Jesus, this by saying that they did play and beat Minnesota at home, and I think Minnesota's okay. I don't think now I know Indiana fans are freaking out about them losing at Minnesota. Minnesota's well coached. They don't have talent, but they're well coached. I don't think that's going to age too poorly. But what I don't like for Mizzou, against their first like true top 100 opponents of the year, outshot by 10%, out rebounded, only forced turnovers on 16% of possessions, which I had kind of grown to expect to be the Mizzou hallmark, was forcing a lot of turnovers if it meant allowing a lot of easy twos. But really the big one for me, and I want your perspective on this as a Mizzou fan, there is I would say 95% chance that this will be the third time in 4 years Dennis Gates has created a non-conference strength of schedule in the 300s. The exception was the 0-18 SEC year, and even that finished 238th. Mizzou is already playing from behind, and I believe they've got, if I remember correctly, one more chance at like a marquee-ish non-conference win against Illinois on the 22nd, which they'll probably be like 6 to 8 point underdogs in. One, why do you think Dennis Gates does this? And two, how big does this put Mizzou behind the 8 ball if they can't beat Illinois going into SEC play?
Yeah, I think it's a major problem. I think it's been a year over year or year after year issue, and it hurt their seeding. The two times they've made the tournament under Gates, last year it cost them massively. Like they were really good in SEC play. They won at Florida and they got a 6th seed, and then their reward is playing Ben McCollum. If you played a good non-conference schedule, get 1 or 2 wins there, you look a lot better. Resume's better. I don't understand why they keep going for these like really low, embarrassingly bad buy games. I don't know if it's a financial thing where they can't afford better buy games, but also like play a couple home and homes, get in a real MTE. They were in next year's players era for about 23 hours and like announced as in, and then they withdrew themselves. I don't understand why. That seems like a baffling money decision. Go get the $1 million, go play there. I can't understand it for the life of me. It's cool they played at Howard, but that game doesn't matter. It doesn't move the needle. It's still probably going to be Q4. And it's like you said, a problem. And if they don't go 10-8 in the SEC, it's going to be really hard to get in. They don't have the, last year, like Oklahoma and Texas, some of those teams had picked up big non-conference wins where they could struggle mightily in league play and still make it. That's not the case for Missouri. If they don't beat Illinois, it's like DEFCON 5, best non-conference win is home against a non-top 100 Minnesota. I don't see the path forward. It really frustrates me. I've got plenty of complaints to give about this team. Like their big transfer portal get was Sebastian Mack, and he played 18 minutes combined in their 2 losses recently. Like just a bad fit, a really bad evaluation, not a guy they needed to add to their core. It's disappointing to me. Well, the talent with Mitchell and Robinson back should have given them the boldness to schedule better, and they just didn't.
I think my thought here, and this is obviously very far out, we really should have brought on Lucas Harkins for this, is that or Rocco, they either need to go beat Illinois or they need to go, like you said, 10-8 in the SEC to make it. And while the SEC is not going to be as extremely stout as it was last year, there's still very few Duff opponents in this league. I think it might pretty much just be MSU and South Carolina. And even then, MSU's probably got the conference's leading scorer, and South Carolina is at least competent. Like they are decently coached. They don't have athletes, but they're not terrible. Yeah, it really does put you behind the 8 ball. And just like looking at the similar resumes tool on Torvik, which I know it's 10 games in, but it does project out. It puts Mizzou right now in that like first 4 territory where they're going to be kind of on the bubble all year long. And I know a lot of people really want Mizzou to schedule St. Louis, which I think is fair. Like that's a fair request, like some sort of home and home there. I don't know that they would do it. It's kind of like when LSU doesn't schedule Tulane. But even without that, like, why don't you do like a Furman at home or a James Madison or an MTSU? Like, just schedule something better than 5 Chicago States.
Yeah, it's that's what I don't get. Like get a couple of Q3s in there. It's I'm gonna be a Missouri fan that's probably gonna piss off Mizzou fans, but no one's been better at this than Kansas. Like year after year, they bring preseason favorites to town, and maybe they've got a bigger budget to bring in better buy games, but like even bringing Princeton and Towson and Davidson this year is so much better. And Texas A&M Corpus Christi, a consistent program in the Southland, than just like bottom half SWAC teams, bottom half MEAC teams. I need more. I need better. I need more ambition if it's going to get a lot better, but I don't think it's going to. So,
Well, and the thing is, like,
sigh.
I'd understand if Mizzou didn't want to bring in Drake, because that is too fresh. Like, that is, it reminds me of when Michigan scheduled App State in football, like 7 years after the horror.
Yeah.
And the only thing anybody talked about was the old game.
Yes.
Like, I would understand not scheduling Drake. That's totally fine. But I don't understand not bringing in, like I mentioned, like a Davidson or an Ohio, or like I know that you can't just schedule like SWAC and MEAC favorites over and over, which is fine. I think wins above bubble is good for that. But you can at least bring in like an SIU.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe like they thought VMI would be better because they brought back a lot, but that team's bottom 30 in the country again. I just think there wasn't much ambition, and I don't know if there's just not much thought put into it. If they do want to try to play a bunch of HBCUs, if that's part of it, I don't know, but it has not been good for them and will continue to be a problem moving forward and a hindrance in their seeding and selection possibilities. All right, time to turn it around, Will. Turning it around on Tennessee. You've got much.
Let's make this a very visual podcast again, and I'll show you.
Papa needs his coffee. Yes, there we go.
That's me for this one.
Well, you've got more like first world problems because Tennessee's still really good, but they have lost 3 games in a row. And my number for them is 0.99. That is their points per possession across those 3 games, 198 points on 200 possessions. And it's just trying to figure out what the offensive pecking order is after Jacoby Gillespie, after Nate Ament. Those two are the clear ringleaders of the offense. And then it's like pretty obviously Jalen Carey is the 3rd best offensive player. Like you watch this team and a lot of lineups where Cade Phillips and Bishop Boswell are on the floor, and neither of those guys is even willing to look at the basket. That's kind of an issue to me. Over the last 3 games, those two have played a combined 121 minutes and have taken 17 shots. Like they're just not threats. Yeah. Okpara is never really going to be a scoring option. Amari Abram isn't good enough against quality competition. What do you do with the scoring, with the pecking order there? Is Jalen Carey good enough to be that 3rd option? Do you expect someone else to emerge? What's your current thought process with the Tennessee offense?
Here's what I would do if I were Mr. Barnes. I think obviously you got to stick with Gillespie and Ament. They're in your best 2 no matter what. And I think that JP Estrella is probably number 3. He's on a minutes restriction due to his knee injury, but their expectation after talking with a couple people over the weekend is that he'll probably be a full go for Louisville onward. So I think Estrella's got to be in there. And yeah, for now, despite some of my problems with his play at times, I would probably put Carey in your best 5. But the problem is you're only, I would still argue, and I know he had like a kind of physically down game against Illinois. I am still a pro Ament guy defensively. I think he holds up fine defensively. He's generally in the right spots. He's long, which helps. Gillespie is coming along as a point of attack defender too. But this means to me that you have to start Bishop Boswell just because he's easily Tennessee's best defender. And you may have missed it because it probably didn't make its way outside of many Tennessee circles. Cade Phillips is out for the year with a shoulder injury.
I did miss that. Okay.
So he dislocated it in summer, and it's just never been fully healthy since. He's tried to play through it, and you can kind of tell offensively, especially, he's not the same guy he was last year.
Yeah, last year he was like thundering down the lane, scary guy. Like he could dunk anything. It didn't have the same zeal this year. Okay, so he was wearing like the Jalen Lowe shoulder harness that clearly was.
Yeah, and he's, which makes me wonder about Lowe going forward too. Back on that point of like, how long can you go through this? But I do think Tennessee is running into a really interesting push and pull going forward, where I would argue ideally like the best version of their offense probably has Ament at the 4 somehow. But the problem is finding who would play the 2 and 3.
Yes.
Because I would still like Boswell to in those. I still think Boswell's quite good, especially as a defensive piece. Offensively, it is kind of just like having Meshack again.
Yes.
You just deal with that. But what that means is you got to have a guy who's just willing to shoot the damn ball. And Tennessee does not have a lot of guys willing to shoot the damn ball right now. Abram is closest to me in this regard. I think Abram is a shooter. He's not a driver, but that's okay. If you have Gillespie to drive, you have Amet to drive, and you have like a center that can just dunk it. Like Felix Okpara, brother, you're 6'11". I need you to dunk the damn ball. I do believe it's workable, but that does create a little interesting issue where even in your best lineups, you're going from 6'4" to 6'10". So what do you do about like larger guards or smaller wings? Or just, like a 6'8" wing in general? Do you have the guy for that? And two, as we saw against Illinois, that's not going to fly against everybody. Tennessee got bullyballed with Amen out there. And it's just, he's got a thin frame. He's not able to hold up against burlier forwards. So Tennessee has to they've got to plug and play. I think Dwayne Brown is interesting. I don't really like him defensively yet, but he rebounds well and he can get to the rim. Okpara block shots, supposedly. If you can't tell, I'm quite frustrated with his play right now. And Jalen Carey is just very up and down, which we knew from Vanderbilt. But when he's rolling, he's really good offensively. So I think Tennessee's got an intriguing push and pull. I agree, they're still good. I think the fan freak out is a bit much. It's not hard to ask Tennessee fans to lose their minds over the slightest inconvenience, I've learned. But like they're still number one in offensive rebounding rate. Still quietly 30th in 2-point percentage allowed. It's kind of the same story. You got to figure out what you got offensively. I think they need to find a way to just stop turning the ball over so much. And a lot of that to me is on Gillespie. Yeah. To be honest, he's made some really bad passes.
Can I pick at what might be a wound? I'm just curious how much of the fan base is like depressed that Cameron Carr is doing what he's doing for Baylor when you could use like that exact player.
Decent bit. I would actually say that the majority of Tennessee fans are still annoyed that they didn't get Isaac McNeely or Rodney Rice out of the portal. Okay. Because Tennessee is very much in it for both and got outbid. The Rice one, I think they got outbid by like $1.5 million.
Yeah, USC rolled it out for that one.
Yeah, but McNeely, like they were in it until the last second, and Louisville beat him by like $500,000. And so that one really sticks in the craw right now because you could really use a lineup where you stick, fill in the blank 2 guard out there that's willing to shoot and can hit him at a pretty good rate, and then move Boswell to the 3.
Yep.
Where he can just kind of be invisible and just be a defensive guy that occasionally takes 3s.
Which is sort of,
but they don't have that.
Yeah, what they had last year with Meshack playing the 3 and next to Ziegler and Lanier. And there's just kind of missing that 1-2 guard. I think we thought that coming in, and there's hope maybe that Ethan Berg would do it or Amari Evans as a freshman, but that's not been the case. So it's a solve. Yeah. It's a mystery that still needs to be solved for the Vols.
I'm still pretty high on them. I still think of them as like a 4 seed down the road. Like they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like 3 losses in a row sucks. But the thing with Tennessee fans is the length of memory lasts about 12 minutes. So they've all forgotten that like in the Connect season, they lost 3 in a row. Or that like, as we mentioned earlier last year, Texas Tech lost to St. Joe's.
Yeah.
At a neutral site, not even a true road game, St. Joe's. And they were a 3 seed and were like 2 shots from the elite or from the Final Four.
Yeah.
So.
They just played 3 really good defenses. Like Syracuse has actually emerged as a good defensive team with front court athleticism and length. And that has, that's part of it. It's not just like they collapsed against bad defenses. So we'll let them off the hook a little bit. Louisville, a big game coming up for them a week from when we're recording this on Tuesday, December 16th. All right, well, back to you for...
I think it's going to serve them well to get those 10 days. Yeah. That's a good mental reset.
Yeah. All right, back to you for your number 6 stat.
I'm actually staying in the SEC, and I am shocked to be bringing this team up because I didn't think I'd be talking about them much all year. Okay, so number 1 in the nation in first half scoring margin is obviously Michigan, plus 17 in the first half. Can you tell me who number 2 is?
In first half scoring margin?
Yes.
Man, I would have thought like Vanderbilt or Arizona, but I guess probably not, based on the hint of the SEC.
Georgia Bulldogs.
Hey now.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Hey now.
Plus 16.3 in first halves this year on average. That is astonishing. Yeah. Now, obviously, a big part of this is because for some reason, Mike White has decided to play fast again for the first time since he was at Louisiana Tech. So, tip of the cap, I guess. I don't know why you waited 10 years to do that when you could have made your Florida tenure more fun, but whatever. We'll let it slide. The point to me is like, it's partially that and partially they've played a really crappy schedule. But even so, like, there is something to beating FSU on the road by 34. There is something to beating Xavier at a neutral site, beating Georgia Tech. Like, they have really run up the score in first halves of games. Now, their second half scoring margin's a little bit dimmer, but even so, you can kind of point to that being like, letting off the gas a bit in these Q4 games, or, like teams kind of shooting a little bit better in second halves than first. But still, this is a Georgia team that is plus 22% from two right now, which is shockingly good. 15th in offensive rebounding rate, plus 7.5 per 100 in turnover margin. They, I am afraid to say, are a good team.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to believe it because I had kind of pointed out, like in their three games against P5s, Tech, Xavier, Clemson, they had actually underperformed the spread in all three. And then they went on the road and pantsed FSU. So I know like FSU is probably not going to be very good this year, but that is meaningful in some way. Now, this could all go south real quick if they lose to Cincinnati on Saturday at a neutral site, which is certainly a possible outcome. But if they don't and they take care of business, they're going to be 12-1 heading into SEC play, with their lone loss being an overtime to a future tournament team. How much do you believe in Georgia?
I'm getting there with them. The cannon catchings at the 4 lineups have worked a lot better than I thought, and they've maintained that rim dominance, the two-way 2-point percentage dominance that last year felt like a symptom of playing two true bigs, Ace Newell, this potential lottery pick, first-round pick guy that can block shots and is athletic. But, I mean, again, still a little bit schedule dependent and style dependent, but they're easily leading the country in dunks still. They have 11 more than the next most team. They have 70, over 8.5 or around 8.5 dunks a game. That tells me like how physically dominant they've been. And, the Florida State thing, that's probably one of the most overmatched physically Power 5 teams you can find. Like, they play a 6'8" D2 transfer at center. That's not great. But holding up against Clemson, like this feels very Russillo to me, to be like, I was actually most impressed by their loss, like the loss to Clemson. But they held up against a really good front court there. They made Clemson play an 83 possession game. I know it was overtime, but Clemson is so known for slowing you down with their defense and making you use the shot clock. And Georgia got them to play faster and got that game up tempo. So they've been able to imprint their style in most games. And I know Xavier gave them a little bit of a curveball with the zone. And that was kind of why that second half came way back towards a close game after Georgia was up double digits for part of the first half and early second half. But I'm starting to believe, I think their guards are better than I gave them credit for. I do want to see it as they get consistently through SEC play, because the schedule, some bad Q4s, and then like Florida State and Xavier, I don't really think are Power 5 talent, but that's why I'm clinging to the Clemson game as like their most impressive performance despite a loss. If they can bring that against Auburn, Florida, Arkansas, etc., then yeah, this team does look like a back-to-back tourney appearance, which I think a Georgia fan said to us in the Discord hasn't happened since 02-03.
Yeah, and that had I encourage anybody to read who's like not a history buff to read up on Jim Herrick.
Yes.
And what he did to keep players eligible. It's kind of brilliant in its stupidity. So I think people should read up on that. But I did run the numbers really quick. Even if you regress for some shooting luck, they're still playing at the level of, even against just high majors, at the level of roughly like a top 30, top 35 team. So if they fade back towards the pack a bit and are eventually just an 8 or a 9 seed, I still think that's a hugely successful season for them. They have some defensive rebounding problems that are going to pop up sooner rather than later. It's going to depend on the opponent, but I think it will come up. And against high majors, they actually have a negative turnover margin. Against the Q4s, they're plus 16 per 100 in turnover margin, which is astonishing.
Yeah.
But I still like this team. They are really strong two ways at the rim, even against high majors. And they are emerging to me as an interesting mid-pack option in the SEC. Not like a team that's going to win it, but like if you get to the end of the season and Georgia's like 8th or 9th in the SEC, I wouldn't be shocked, and I won't be surprised if they pull off an upset or two with that.
Yep, absolutely. I think some of the home excitement they had, that was why they got in the tournament last year. It was a couple real big home wins. They beat Kentucky at home, they beat Florida at home, and that was enough. Just don't get down 30-5 in your NCAA tournament game. And hopefully they won't play a team that's top 10 in KenPom if they make it.
I would just simply not do that.
Yes, it seems obvious to me. I don't know why they didn't. All right, my number 6 stat. Maybe I should have kept the mic after we talked Tennessee, but I'm gonna give Illinois a little nod here. They're 15-0 in games the last 2 years when they hit 35% or more of their threes, which doesn't feel like a high bar when the national average is a little over 33%. And interestingly enough, the game last year that they lost where they made the highest percentage of their threes was Alabama. And that is also the case this year. They lost to Alabama when they've made around 34% of their threes. But they take so many in the system that Brad Underwood has now started to lean on that it makes their outcomes like pretty volatile and pretty reliant on the 3-point shot. They're not quite as high this year as they were in 3-point attempt rate last year, but with Wagler, with Boswell shooting a little better this year, you've got Stojakovic coming in, Petrovic, both Ivasic twins at the center spot. Like everybody on the court can take threes, and if they're going in at just a normal rate, suddenly this team looks really unstoppable. And Tennessee felt the brunt of that. It's not like they had this incredible offensive performance, but 1.2 points per possession against Tennessee is no joke. And they didn't even shoot 40% from three. So I just think that opens things up so much for Illinois. And it's a stat worth keeping an eye on because they take so many triples.
Let me tell you, as a biased observer watching that game, multiple times I was just like, Jesus, could another team not have recruited Keaton Wagler?
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys doing scouting?
Yeah.
It was them in Minnesota for this kid, right?
This was the didn't play shoe circuit basketball, so they couldn't possibly scout a guy that only played high school basketball. That's I'm somehow told that's like a reasonable excuse for coaching staffs, and I don't buy it personally.
No, I think that they should stop being lazy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you should just stop being stupid personally, but full offense as somebody recently victimized. But the thing that I really like about them, they collapsed Tennessee to 2 in the ball a lot in that game, which, to be honest, I've watched Tennessee against similar versions of this. Like, I know it's not the exact same, but Alabama, also a team that takes a lot of threes and goes inside out a lot. And Tennessee has more or less solved that, which is weird to say, but Alabama has not had a great offensive game against Tennessee in probably 4 years because Tennessee's system usually just goes one-on-one and holds up fine. Tennessee couldn't in this game because Illinois forced them to go 2 to the ball. And it was like Illinois knew their spots so well, knew how to find the kick out threes. Wagler is huge, but like Tommy Ivasic, I never remember. Big Tom was awesome in this game. Mirkovic, really good. And I know that he didn't shoot any, literally didn't shoot a shot in 26 minutes, but I think some special hat tips must be given to one Ben Hummerkaus, who had an all-time great defensive performance in this game for me, was just instrumental in locking down Tennessee's offense for large stretches, which I never thought I would say about them.
Yeah.
So
I think if you told Illinois fans last year that Hummerkaus would not take a three, not take a shot, and have an awesome game in 26 minutes, they'd be like, "How? What did he do? Did he did he grow to 8 feet tall?"
Now, they still don't force turnovers, but like you said, if they just hit a normal amount of their threes, the math is so in their favor because of the quality of shot they get from 2 that they are going to win some games strictly just by pure 3 is greater than 2.
Yep.
Like, they're going to play Ohio State tonight as we're recording, and so we'll get to tomorrow's games today later. Yep. But based on Ohio State shot selection versus Illinois shot selection, the scale is already tilted to the Illini before that game even happens. And that's going to continue to happen a lot throughout the year. And it's why, like, last year I picked them to go to the Sweet 16 because they had a huge 2-point percentage advantage. And it was just like, if they can hit a normal number of threes, the ceiling is like really high for this team.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing this year, but they're actually adding more in rebounding than they have, in previous seasons. They still don't foul, which is great. And they still have the same 2-point percentage gap that they usually do. So, I mean, Brad Underwood has built a really stable system there, and I continue to be impressed by them every single season now.
Yeah, you mentioned not forcing turnovers, but they don't cough it up either. And if they're dominating the glass, that helps build a little bit of a shot volume advantage, and they never foul. So that's how they offset not forcing turnovers, and they're huge. Number 3 nationally in average height. So like positionally big, huge at center with the 2 7-footers back to back. So high upside team that can really look awesome on nights where the 3-point luck goes their way. All right, final thought, Will. I will let you finish it off first.
All right. This is also shot volume based. This is plus 14.82. This is from our friend Eric Hazelman, Hazelmetrics. This is by my estimate, the number of extra shot equivalents adjusted for schedule Santa Clara gets per 100 possessions compared to their opponents. If you go with Gasway's Classic Shot Volume Index, they are still 22nd nationally. This is a really strong team at just producing more shots than their opponents. And I'm aware that this is a poor time to bring this up because they got blown out at New Mexico over the weekend. I will mention they're missing Jake Ensminger, who's pretty easily their most efficient offensive piece. They struggled a bit, especially defensively, too. I think UNM shot like 78% from two. So they got to figure that out. But I know they're just 70th at KenPom, just inside the top 50 at Torvik, but they own wins over all of McNeese, Xavier, Nevada, and Minnesota. None of those teams might make the tournament, but all four of them are probably going to be top 100 this year. In half their games this year, they've pulled off a pretty rare duo of getting back over 35% of their misses and having a turnover percentage of 15% or lower. This team is really, really good at getting the most out of a possession. And again, odd to bring this up after they just lost by 27 on the road, but I'm still a believer. I still like these guys a lot. 8th in offensive rebounding percentage nationally. Play Arizona State on Saturday. If the WCC is going to get to 3 bids this year, which I still believe is possible, this is the team that can do it.
Yeah, it's looking like 4 or 5 seasons that Herb Sendek's going to have a top 100 team at Santa Clara. That's just so freaking impressive. And the one year they didn't, they finished 109th in 2024. Also, to your point on Ensminger missing the game and how important he is, do you know what his assist to turnover ratio is, by the way, off the top of your head? Have you seen it?
It's got to be like 5-1, right? 4-1.
It is 14.5 to 1. He has 29 assists and 2 turnovers. I was watching the St. Louis game, which is the last one he played in because he got hurt. But at one point it was 29 to 1, and they remarked on it, and then he threw like a terrible alley-oop in transition, and it was a turnover. But yes, 29 assists, 2 turnovers in 6 games. And again, the schedule wasn't like mega easy. McNeese, Xavier, Nevada, St. Louis, like 4 pretty solid teams, and he was racking up that kind of ratio. Taking him out does matter, and I'm excited to see him back in the lineup whenever he returns and see if that like reboosts the offense, because obviously they missed him against New Mexico.
And if they can win their final 3 non-con games, which are strangely all at neutral sites for reasons I can't figure out, Arizona State, North Texas, and Loyola Chicago, I'm assuming the third of those was scheduled well before we knew what Loyola was going to be this year.
Yes.
But if they can go 3-0 in those, by my estimate, they'd be over a full win above bubble, which is like really good for non-conference purposes and puts you north of the bubble heading into conference play. Now, I think if they're going to make the field, I'm believing they are probably going to have to get to like 24-7, 25-6 regular season, you would say?
Yeah.
Maybe even higher.
Yeah. And you're going
But
to
if they can just
find a Gonzaga
that,
win maybe in there, hopefully.
Yeah. So, like, really honestly, if you go 14-4 in West Coast Conference play, you're probably in decent shape, I would imagine.
Also, I got to bring it full circle here. You mentioned their two of their final 3 non-conference games being in non-conference. 2 of them are at the home of the Banana Slugs, UC Santa Cruz. They're playing both North Texas and Loyola Chicago in Santa Cruz for some mysterious reason. So shout out home field.
Let me I have to check to make sure. Oh, great. They don't have broadcast info. This is going to be like a Baller TV special, isn't it?
You got to believe it. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Jesus.
Okay, my last number, and it is a little related to or similar to your Santa Clara one, it's the number 1, and that is the number of losses from a few surprisingly respectable teams this year. UCF is a big one, where if your only loss is to Vanderbilt, you're doing okay. Like that impresses me.
Yeah.
They have almost cracked the top 50 by now, and I know their only real win that matters is at Texas A&M, but that's solid. They beat Pittsburgh at a semi-neutral site. They just whipped Towson, who might be a top team in the CAA. I can't believe how well that team has come together with the roster that they have. A lot of volatile personalities, but Dawkins has been good recently at making that happen. 3 straight teams inside the top 70, and it looks like a 4th this year. But then also just a tip of the cap to Colorado, to Seton Hall, who we've discussed on this pod, to LSU, who we kind of called a fraud earlier, but they still only have one loss, and Cal. Just 5 teams that I think were picked pretty low and not expected to do much have gotten off to strong starts. Does anybody in that group jump out at you, Will, that you want to give an extra little zoom in on?
I love Cal. I was high on them in the preseason, which I think surprised some people. I just thought they had a better roster than most anticipated. And I think Cal is really impressive to me because the lone loss is on the road to Kansas State, which we'll see how that ages. But Kansas State shot 50% from 3 and something like 60% from the mid-range in that game. You run that game back 10 more times, that's probably not going to happen even once. They are pretty heavy favorites to enter ACC play 12-1, albeit with the only good win over UCLA. But they are shaping up to me. We talked about the SEC's mid-pack earlier. The ACC is a gigantic mid-pack where I think we can safely say 5 teams have separated themselves: Duke, Louisville, UVA, North Carolina, Clemson. Your arguments may vary on like Miami or NC State. We'll see. If we want to, we can include them in that upper-ish echelon.
No, we don't need to. They haven't earned it. I'm not giving it to them.
Okay, perfect. So you got a top 5, and then I think you got a pretty firm. We won't put Pittsburgh in it yet. We've got a pretty firm bottom 2.
You're so kind to Pittsburgh. That was nice. They appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. So 6 through 15 is pretty wide open. If I told you in however many months Cal is the 6th or 7th best team in the ACC, would you really be that shocked?
I wouldn't. No, I think they're well coached. They've at least shown the ability to get a big win in a UCLA game. I don't believe Bilodeau played, sure, and Cal shot 50% from 3. But there's just an element of competence to them. They brought in a couple power conference guys that had fallen by the wayside with Ames, with Chris Bell, Justin Pippen, and Madsen has repurposed them into like legitimately useful pieces. They got size with Dort up front and Illich from Loyola Maryland. I'm buying it. I think they're going to float around that like between 60 and 80th range all year and maybe pull off a big home win. Clemson comes out there in early February. That could be a spot for it. And they've got that advantage of teams having to go all the way across the country. Now, Cal will have to deal with it going east more than a few times. They got the trip to Virginia. They got a trip to Florida in late January. Then to the Northeast for Syracuse and BC. And then the end of the year, Georgia Tech and Wake. So it's a lot of cross-country travel. But if they can hold up at home and pick off some big ones, then they've got at least a chance to be in the bubble conversation.
Yeah, and they have a couple of intriguing weeks. I mean, their start to ACC play, I don't know if you've seen, is kind of nuts. So they get all of Louisville, Duke, and UNC at home in a 17-day span. That's your opportunity because you look at their schedule. Obviously, they're going to finish conference play or non-conference 12-1 in all likelihood. But I think to make the tournament, you probably have to at least finish over 500 in the ACC. And so that's going to make for a really interesting discussion if we get to March and it's 22-9, 10-8 Cal.
Yeah.
How would they be evaluated?
That would be fascinating because it'd be a lot of, I'm sure bracketologists would say, who are the wins against? Like, do they actually move the needle? What's the wins above bubble? But they've at least done nothing wrong so far, and they have chances to do some real things right early in league play. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, what if they beat Clemson and UNC at home?
Yeah, that's probably
totally plausible to me.
Yeah, as long as they avoid tripping up, like, don't lose at Georgia Tech. Don't let Boston College come across the country and beat you or something. But they got a chance. All right. That's it, Will. That's our 7 stats back and forth. But that means we've got to get to everyone's favorite segment of Willstradamus. Continued his incredible clairvoyant run last week. So I'll throw you a couple games that are tonight, and we'll see what you can come up with. Florida UConn at Madison Square Garden with the undercard of BYU Clemson also happening there. You mentioned Illinois at Ohio State, and then Villanova going to Michigan. I mean, you can probably just say Michigan wins by 40 and you're safe, basically. That's all they do these days. But any inklings for those games coming to your mind?
I'm looking through them now. I have a hard time, I will admit, envisioning 5-4 next to Florida's name. But I also have a hard time figuring out how they're going to win this game. I've got UConn 73-67. So close effort, good effort, but another one of those. It's kind of like how the Chiefs keep losing close games this year, where it's like just the luck swings back against you.
Yeah.
Undercard, BYU Clemson. I am going to go I think BYU wins this one by 5. High scoring game though. I think both teams go north of 80.
Okay.
I think this is going to be the rare one where the undercard is a lot more fun than the headliner overcard, because UConn and Florida both foul a ton. I feel like that's going to be a very free throw heavy game and not actually all that fun to watch. Love Illinois at Ohio State tonight. I got Illinois by 8. And then to close it out, I'm going to give you a surprise here. Villanova only loses by 12 at Michigan.
Wow. You heard it here, folks.
I think Kevin Willard has done a really surprisingly good job with the roster I did not like in the preseason. They are playing like a tournament team. Michigan is due a little regression in spots, not a ton, just a little. And I think this could be a night where a little bit of it comes due. I don't think that Villanova is amazing by any stretch, but I want to point out 7-1 and covering in most of these games, despite allowing 43% from 3.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to hold forever, you know?
Yeah, you got to get a little bit of beneficial fortune at some point. I'm trying to find in my my little handy dandy 3-point regression tool I pulled up before the show. Yeah, Villanova's owed almost 9% positive regression in 3-point shooting. Like opponents should be shooting a lot closer to 34-35% rather than that insane 43%. So suddenly might come down. Maybe it is today against Michigan. All right, folks, you heard it. When Will gets one of those spot on, make sure you give him a shout. Respect the man, because that is not an easy task to do. That is our show here this week, Stats by Will and Jim. I'm your host, Jim Root. Thank you to Will Warren, my beloved co-host. Shout outs to Trilly Donovan, the Basket Under Review overlord, Sam Freyer for our graphics, Corey Aldis for the production behind the scenes, and of course to Homefield, our loyal sponsor. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode. Enjoy your week of basketball.